We're going into the bin today, where we dive deep and discuss topics that some don't talk about.
There's something about these little ecosystems, the way that everything breaks down, transforms, and becomes something new, that reminds me a lot of us. Sometimes life piles up like a bin that's been overfed, too much at once, too fast, not enough time to breathe. The worms slow down, the air gets thick, and everything starts to heat up in ways it shouldn't. And honestly, we do the same exact thing. If you're watching this right now and you feel like you're drowning in expectations, I want you to hear this. You're not broken. You're just overloaded. I've had many moments in my life that I've burnt out, had mental breakdowns, and just completely shut down. It's the moment you realize that your life has become so overwhelming and there's nothing you can really do about it until you hit that dark tunnel and finally see the light. There is hope at the end of that tunnel. We just have to reach it. So just like the bin, you don't fix burnout by pushing harder. You fix it by slowing down, by letting everything breathe again. There's a pressure to keep up with everyone else's timelines, milestones, and achievements. But in the worm bin, nothing grows on a schedule. Some scraps break down fast, some take weeks, some take months, and none of it is wrong. If you feel behind, you're not. You're just on your timeline. A lot of my life, I felt behind, especially through school, because school was not easy for me. I struggled in math, I struggled in science, I struggled in pretty much most of all the academics. And as time went on, I struggled more. Relationships, I felt behind. I was different than a lot of relationships, a lot of friends' relationships. And it's like I've never been able to catch up to anybody. I was always, in some ways, behind by a step or two. But then in other departments, I'm ahead in a step or two. Because I do things my own way. I learn my own way. Just because I did not do good in school doesn't mean I actually don't do good in other areas. It just kind of depends. But as far as being behind, that's kind of always something that I always felt. I'm just behind in a step or two in certain areas. Worms don't rush. They just keep moving, one tiny moment at a time. And somehow, everything gets to where it needs to go. Friendships can feel like a bin that used to thrive, and suddenly something's off. Maybe someone pulls away, maybe you feel left out, and maybe you're the one who changed. In the bin, balance matters. Too much of one thing, not enough of another, and the whole ecosystem will shift. If you've been feeling alone lately, I want to ask you something. Not to everyone watching, just you. Who is one person you miss, but haven't said it out loud? You don't have to tell me. Just hold their name for one moment. Friendships weren't easy for me, for the simple fact that I really didn't have any. I had a couple friends in the beginning, and those were ones that literally lived on my block. But once they moved away, I didn't have anybody else. I had one friend that I ended up with, and we were friends for a few years until she moved away. Friendship for me was hard, since most of the time I got bullied. So I really didn't have anybody that was trustworthy. Until way later, I ended up with a friend that we were joined at the hip. We were pretty much like sisters. And then again, she moved away. Another friend of mine that I thought was a friend turned out not to be a friend. Because all the years that I had struggles and problems, that I tried to make myself invisible, she broke my world completely. I was in class, and her and another so-called friend of mine came into the class and decided to do a skit. So as I'm sitting there listening to it, I'm like, wow, this skit sounds a little familiar. Names were changed in the skit. But then as it got to one point, I realized it was me. And the next thing I know, I had the whole class staring at me. And I shrunk in that seat so far down. Now, the teacher either knew or he saw the horror on my face, one of the two. Because afterwards he asked me that if I had any problems that I would be able to come to him for help. So friendship was hard for me in particular, because trust was a big thing for me, and trust was destroyed for me. So sometimes friendships don't break, they just change shape, and that is okay. Some of us grew up in environments that felt like an unbalanced bin with way too much chaos and not enough stability. When the bin is chaotic, the worms adapt. They survive. They find pockets of safety. They keep going even when the environment isn't ideal. Maybe that's you. If you grew up in chaos or in that chaos moment, you learn resilience the hard way. But you did learn. Growing up in my household was always chaotic. It was like World War III. My dad was very hard to get along with. He had a very short fuse temper, and just the smallest and the tiniest of things would set him off. So I learned as a kid to try to make myself small and invisible, because I thought that if I was invisible, the yelling wouldn't start. But sometimes it didn't work. It was great while we were in public, because he was a great dad. But it was the moments that we were at home that was different. I learned to be invisible at home, and I learned to be invisible at school because of the bullying and issues I had in school. So not only did I have it in school, but I'd have to go home to it. And when I went home, the moment you walk in the door, it's like hitting a brick wall. It was heavy. You couldn't breathe. It's like the air just got sucked out of the house, and you wanted to escape. It's like every bone in your body was telling you, don't enter. So I would shrink, become invisible, and go straight to my room until it felt safe to come out. Or just try and avoid him the best that I could, because I already knew. I learned to read how he was that day or any day. And it would just literally hit like a brick wall, just came out of nowhere. So it's possible to go get through it. We adapt in whatever way. I've now grown to where I can't be around big groups of loud people. It makes me sick physically. So our mental will adapt. Sometimes not in a very good way. We just kind of got to work through it. But it's our way of trying to survive. Loss is part of life we never feel ready for. When someone you love becomes part of the soil, the world feels different. It feels smaller, quieter. But in the bin, loss is transformation. A leaf becomes soil, a memory becomes nourishment. What disappears becomes the foundation for something new. Grief is heavy at first, like wet compost that refuses to breathe, but slowly the worms will keep moving. And they teach us something very important. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means the love finds a new place to live. When my dad passed away in March of 2024, that was the hardest day for me. I didn't think it would be, because growing up, even in adulthood, I swore to myself that if something was to happen to my dad, it probably wouldn't bother me, because I only loved him part of the time. But I was wrong. I was very wrong. When he passed away suddenly, without warning, it broke me to a point that I didn't even think was possible. I didn't get to say goodbye to him. I saw him the day before he passed away. But I didn't get to see him and say goodbye. And I think in some cases that makes it hurt a little more, because I didn't get to say goodbye. It just happened. And I wasn't able to eat. I wasn't really able to function all that much. I just sat and cried and cried and cried. And I went into a deep, dark hole that I didn't think I could go. Especially over him. But the thing is, even though my dad was very hard to live with, be around, he was still my dad. He was still there, growing up. And even in his good moments, he was great. And so, if you're carrying a loss right now, you're not carrying it alone. Other people also have that loss. And sometimes the loss is a little different for each person. And we get through it. It doesn't get easy. It's never going to go away. But we can get through it. Healing isn't a straight line. It's more like compost. Messy, slow, unpredictable, but always moving toward growth. In the bin, new sprouts appear when the environment becomes safe again. Not before, not on command, only when the conditions are just right. You deserve conditions that help you grow. You deserve warmth, patience, and time. Healing is messy. The emotions, your memories, and everything. It becomes a new chaos. But being able to rebuild and heal requires a different form of growth. No matter what our past is, no matter what you went through, and what I learned from a few different things and even somebody else, forgiveness will help you heal. Regardless of what the circumstances were in your past, your present, you got to forgive. I sat one day recently and I forgave my dad. I forgave him for being the way he was and the way that I had to grow up. I forgave it. It's still hard because I still have those memories. And it's still hard because it still hurts. But once I forgave the way that I grew up, I felt better. Now, there's still another situation in my life, past, that I probably should forgive as well. But then in a lot of cases, I pretty much just don't really care. But there's probably a part of me that does care because it was still a trauma moment in my life. So I should probably, at some point forgive that situation too. It just all takes time. And when you're ready, before it's too late, or even afterwards, my dad's no longer here, but I know he can hear me. And so I just sat and still forgave him. And I felt a little bit better. So to heal and rebuild, sometimes we have to take those steps that we don't really feel like we should or that we're comfortable with doing. But you know what? It's a step that needs to happen for you to be able to heal and rebuild and move on. Life is a lot like the worm bin. Messy, unexpected, full of breakdowns and breakthroughs. But everything in here has a purpose, and everything you do does too. You're not behind, you're not failing, you're becoming. Thank you for sitting with me today inside the worm bin. Let's keep growing, keep healing, and keep rebuilding one tiny moment at a time.